Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining me on a Saturday morning as we do our day texts. As most of you know, we meet pretty much every weekday between 6:30 and 7:30, usually right around 7. Same with Saturdays. And then usually on Sundays I do a what I call open session where we start off with a topic and then we'll talk about it or other topics. Or I will do a CW Jaw Talk show where we meet and kind of casually talk for a little while. And then I get going into a more formatted show, but where you can still post questions and comment while I do it live. And then after I'm done with the show, we talk a little bit more off of the video where I'm going to put it on the site. So I encourage you to join us if you want to just casually chat about different things on before or after our Sunday shows. Now, this Sunday or tomorrow, I'm not doing either an open session or a CW Jaw Talk show just because I've done so many and I'm still going back through them to try to get different clips or make sure that I'm aware of the material that I can use. And at times I take a little bit of a break just so I can get things ready for the next series of shows. So we've got a couple different series ongoing, one of which is the Ancient Aliens series, Christians and Ancient Aliens. And then another one is the pre-Christian evidence showing Jesus is the biblical Messiah. So I'm not yet sure which one of those I'm going to pick up to start with the CW Jaw Talk shows again. So what I'm going to do tomorrow instead of CW Jaw Talk or open session is I'm going to do another live stream on Michael and Jesus as the biblical archangel. I encourage you to join me tomorrow. I'll put the notice up after the day text show. But I encourage you to join me tomorrow for that show if you're at all interested in the belief about Jesus and Michael as the biblical archangel. Because if you enjoyed part 3, I know you'll enjoy part 4. And I have some information I'm going to be sharing with you I have not shared before that will give you a better and more complete insight into the period of time during which biblical events, including the birth of Christianity, were taking place. What were they believing about Michael? Well, our day text today is going to tell you in part some of those beliefs. We've talked previously in my Jesus and Michael as the Archangel shows about texts from Daniel. I also did a video I encourage you to watch about the sons of God in pre-Christian texts, what they were believing about these sons of God, what is taught in the Bible. Jesus, of course, is the Son of God. Michael is considered either Jesus as the Son of God or a Son of God. So I'm going to present a live stream tomorrow on Michael and Jesus as the Archangel, part 4. And I've got some great information I'm going to share regarding beliefs concerning Michael and the Messiah. And I'm also going to discuss a little bit more, I should say, since I've talked about it before, about the meaning of Psalm 82. So, but if you want more on that text and Jesus' use of it in John 10, then I encourage you again to watch my Sons of God in Pre-Christian Text video and look at the topical index video listing for John 10. And any time you see the term God or gods in quotes, I'm usually talking about texts when you see those terms in the title that involve, how these divine beings were considered in biblical times and in biblical and related texts. And then also in relation to that, at times we get into the Trinity and different beliefs that have come about since the first century in terms of trying to make sense of the texts involving these divine beings and Jesus and the belief in one God. Okay, so I'm not going to get into a ton of stuff on Michael in this day text video, even though in our day text he's featured. But that's because I'm going to do a live stream about this text and other texts that are related to it from the first century and earlier centuries, biblical and non-biblical, but that Bible-believing or Jah-worshipping Jews were teaching and believing. So I'm gonna save the bulk of the Michael discussion for tomorrow, and I'll put the notice up, like I said, after this show. We'll talk a little bit about Michael though, because he's right there in our reading, as I mentioned. So let's get to it. We go through the biblical books progressively based on the translations I've done to date. Some of which are online. If you go to my Elihu's site, you can find, for example, the letter of Jude in the Elihu Online paper section, the critical edition that I've done of the translation of Jude according to the earliest text, P72. And on my Christian Witnesses of Jah discussion forum, I house my translations of other texts to date, and that others who are part of the forum can see and share. It's just that I keep the forum membership exclusive to those who at least openly believe the main three things we do, and who are willing to identify themselves to some extent, so we know who we're dealing with. I'm not trying to build a group of anonymous people. On YouTube and in other places, we don't. I understand protecting identities and how at times, we can't always maybe be ourselves, but the idea of being a Christian witness of Jah, and so therefore also being a part of our forum, is that you do identify yourself as a witness to Jah, a follower of Jesus. And unless you're in extreme persecution or a situation where you need to remain anonymous for some good reason, maybe like the author of the letter of Hebrews, then you should testify according to who you are. You shouldn't be afraid. True love throws fear outside. Get out of here. Why should we be afraid? We serve the Most High. His Son is in control. And while we are in a condition where, because of our inheritance from our first parents, we fall short, and so we have to go through this life in a way that isn't entirely based on our worship of them. It's involved with our own desires, the desires of other people, and other spirit beings whom Jah allows to be a part of this earth for now. But as we're going to see in this text, Jah's patience only goes so far with people and with spirit beings. But he is a just God who allows things to occur because we're not programmed. We're not predetermined to make decisions or to do certain things. We have within us the capacity. And Jah can use our desire to accomplish his will in ways that he knows what we're going to do. But he allows us to choose. And then we are held accountable for our choices. Same with the spirit sons of God. They're just on a different level. And so they're judged differently from us over a longer period of time. So let's take a look at our reading. We've been going through these texts in Revelation. And we've been talking about the different messages that God through Jesus and Jesus through his angels and the angels through John shared with the existing Christian groups at that time. And then Revelation goes on to describe various events and visions that show what would take place leading up to certain things that would ultimately culminate in the judgment of everything, dead and living, and then the restoration of the earth to a new earth that will glorify God the way we were originally supposed to. So, that's just a brief intro into our view and summary of how we understand these texts and their description of events. All of these things are tied to earlier events, books, and things that Jah, through others like Daniel, either experienced or described, and some of them still are considered future, both in Daniel and in Revelation. For example, Daniel 12 refers to Michael, who would stand up at the last time, and it's done in the context of people being judged for life or death, the resurrection, exactly what Paul describes in 1 Thessalonians 4:16, when he says Jesus would descend with the voice of an archangel, and the dead who are in union with Christ would rise first. So both Michael and Jesus are connected with these end time judgment resurrection events. And I'm going to get into this a lot more, specifically, as I mentioned, with how these ideas about Michael and the Messiah were presented in texts during or before the first century in my live stream tomorrow. But let's get to our reading, because it also involves Michael, as I said, and we've been talking about. And he's doing something very significant, just like in Daniel 12. And as you know from our reading of the video that I did, Michael and Jesus Part 3 and the Sons of God texts, where in Daniel, there's two there at all times, and they're identified as Gabriel and Michael. We know it's only those two because Gabriel said that Michael's the one who came to help him. He doesn't mention anyone else coming to help him, and he says that only Michael would stand with him. So there's no reason whatsoever to believe that the two beings in Daniel were talking and discussing these things with Daniel, and Daniel's getting information from them. One's getting information from the other. That's Michael and Gabriel. And so it is significant that we find Michael in these roles, both in Daniel, where he's assisting Gabriel and the only one able to stand with him. And remember that being. It said, remember, he's talking to Gabriel and Daniel, and he says, I have to go and fight with the Prince of Persia. And he says, when I go forward, the Prince of Greece is also coming. So he specifically says, I am going to fight with the Prince of Persia. And it also says, like Gabriel also says that no one is standing strong with him against the princes of Greece and Persia except Michael. And the reason I bring that up is because Michael is fighting here as well. And a lot of times people bring up, as I discussed in my Michael and Jesus videos, that while Michael doesn't quote unquote rebuke the devil, according to Jude, in arguing over Moses' body, but yet Jesus rebukes spirits while on earth. And the fact is, as I pointed out, that in Jude, it says that Michael didn't rebuke the devil abusively or incorrectly. He deferred to Jehovah, which is a rebuke indirectly and in the right way. Jesus rebuked spirits on earth because he had authority to do so during that time. You have to look at the context in which these things are done, is my point. So, clearly, we're beyond a rebuke when we get into a fight, right? So we know, while maybe Michael didn't have the authority to fight with the devil at the time when he was disputing over Moses' body, because according to Luke 4, the devil, even at the time when Jesus was on earth, had all authority and could give it to whomever he wanted, except over the nation of Israel. That was Michael's. He was their great prince, given as an allotment to him, as the nations and children of Adam were separated according to the number of the sons of God. Dead Sea Scrolls and earliest Greek Septuagint reading of Deuteronomy 32:8, which is acted out for us again, as I've said before, in Daniel specifically 10 and 12, where you have these beings in fact representing their different nations. So there you had Michael, who would go forward, and he had authority to fight with the Prince of Persia and Greece, but not with the devil, apparently. He could dispute with him. It looks like he was also disputing with him over Joshua the high priest in Zechariah. Doesn't specifically mention Michael there, but it seems like it's him. But whether it is or not, the point is that there are certain times when angels who are there for representing Jehovah, the angel of Jehovah or Michael, or they're the same, they don't get into fights with the devil because he has all authority, at least at those times, when he came to dispute over Moses' body and over Joshua. But that didn't mean that the princes of Persia had that same authority, right? They were not the same level of authority as Satan. So Michael could fight with them. in terms of the nations that were interacting with each other, specifically at this time, so that the nation of Israel could be preserved and ultimately restore the temple, and which would lead to the coming of the Messiah. So now we're at a point where something different is going to happen than all of those other battles or involvements with Michael and the angel of Jehovah and Satan, Joshua and Moses' body, princes of Persia and Greece. Now we have something bigger than all that. We know that because of the authority involved. According to Luke 4, Satan had all authority. He's called the God of this world in 2 Corinthians 4:4. And in 1 John, he's called the ruler of this world. Jesus even refers to him as the ruler of this world. But he says he has no hold on him because he hadn't sinned. And yet he did kill him anyway, and that's why he lost everything he had stolen through his influence in deceiving Eve and causing Adam to fall. Okay, so now here we are. We're past all of that. Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. Now, when I say past all of that, I'm not necessarily meaning to insert these events we're going to read in Revelation 12, 7 through 12. That's our reading. I'm not intending necessarily to insert them chronologically with things like Jesus' birth or the birth of the kingdom, because as many of you know, it goes on to describe in this vision other things that take place. But right before this is a vision where the woman gives birth to a son. And so the question is whether or not this son is a literal child like Jesus, the Messiah, or represents him in some way, or the kingdom. The fact is that we have these different involvements with these spiritual beings and figurative entities that are not as easy to figure out as are the things we're going to read here, involving specific beings doing specific things that in some way they've done before, as described in other biblical books. So, while it may not be always clear, as I said, what the dragon is doing with the child and all these things, this text is pretty clear. So let's look at it. Revelation 12, 7 through 12. A fight also came about in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But the dragon was not able to win the fight, nor was a place found for them any more in heaven. Excuse me. Verse 9. So the great dragon was thrown out of heaven, the ancient serpent, the one who is named Devil, meaning slanderer. He makes you look bad every chance he can, and usually in ways that are not correct. That's what slanderers do. They lie. They lie about other people just to make themselves look better because they're so pathetic. The one who is named Devil and Satan, resistor, the resistor to Jah, the one who thinks he knows ways better than Jah, the one who has not done one single thing better than Jah, the one who is deceiving the whole world's population. Nice job. That's the only way he can get all this done, by lying. Lying to the whole world. Oh man. He was thrown into the earth, and his angels were thrown into it with him. Verse 10, I heard a great voice in heaven saying, now have come to pass. Well, I should say, I'm so used to saying that according to NWT. Now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have become manifest. Why? Because the accuser, the one who goes running around the earth looking for everything we've done, knowing he's the one who caused us to fall in the first place. He goes running around looking for the little things and the big things and all the things we've done, that he can then go running to John. Look what that one did. Look what that one did. And I can just imagine Jah looking back at him saying, look what you did. Why don't you look at yourself? And that's the thing. The ones who worship the devil, they never look at themselves, right? The golden rule is like that's the only gold they don't want to steal, right? The golden rule, if it was real gold, that'd be the only gold that would be safe from these people. Oh man, the day they want to be treated the way they treat other people is never going to come. That's why they're done. And they just have a little time left, as we're going to see here. So, but it's amazing to me. He sets up this system where he can just basically go accusing everybody so they keep dying. Nobody keeps living and praising Jah the way he intended. He can keep ruling the world of people who keep dying, trying to keep them so they keep going and don't totally die out by their sinning. And it's only by Jah that people actually keep alive. So that's his whole existence, is running around accusing everybody, like in Job, finding things, trying to get access. What can I find out that's bad about this one? It's so terrible. It's very, very bad. And while he may think he has whatever, like Jesus, I don't think he has anything. What does he really have? A world that's passing away, and that's passed away before, and that will only really remain if Jah's the one who built it up? So he really has nothing but a temporary presentation of the same thing in different ways, while he's accusing us every day of all these things. Wouldn't you? I would hate to be around someone like that, wouldn't you? Constantly accusing you of all the stuff. Oh, yeah. By contrast, what did Jesus say? How many times did he say to forgive each other? I mean, right? So 7 times or 77 times? I mean, that we think low, he thinks high. We can't even get to 7 times forgiving each other. He's up to 77 times, if you ask him. Yet the devil's out there, he's not going to give you 1. 1 and you're done. That's all he needs. So we don't even need to try to fight him on those things, right? We just appeal to Jesus, right? I'm a child of Adam. I try to do what's right, but I have failed, and I apologize. I confess my sins and trust in Jesus' sacrifice. What's he going to do? He's already gone. The second you start talking like that, he's gone, because he can't keep accusing you now. Why? Because you're reminding him of the thing he blew it on. When you start confessing on the Son, he's immediately reminded of the thing he did wrong. Right? He put him to death for no reason. He didn't do anything against Jah all the way. Even when he seemingly didn't want to, right? He's like, save me from this. He still did it. Let's see the devil do that. No way, right? I mean, there's no way he's going to humble himself voluntarily and live in an infirm body and allow people to mistreat. No way. That's the whole point. He probably couldn't even take whatever was going on in heaven in a way that made him resent Jah. Either way, we don't need to read into the metaphysics too much, but people do things for reasons, right? He obviously had a problem. He has a problem. His problem is he's resisting Jah, slandering him and us. For what? He's not offering anything. Look at any of the agents of the world. What is it? Tell me. Put it in the chat. Say it. They don't have it. And that's why it goes on to say, the accuser, so the authority of his Christ become manifest. He's thrown out, accuses him day and night, nonstop. Verse 11, our brothers on earth defeated the dragon through the blood of the Lamb and through the message of their testimony. They did not love their life all the way to death. Why? Because you're going to die anyway. So why would you care about preserving something that's going to go away anyway if you're going to just preserve it for the wrong reason? If anything, we should be looking to give it for the right reason, not recklessly or without a care for the life we have. But if we can serve Jah and give him praise through our life or death, come on, that's the ultimate. There is no other way. Think of the way these people are going out. Oh man. The people that are serving the dragon and who are running around denying their own failures and trying to accuse other people, excuse me, think of how they're going out. It's not like we're going out and they're not. They're going out the worst possible way, right? They know exactly what they're doing. They're done. It's just a matter of time. And if they don't turn around soon, that's going to be the ultimate. I mean, who would want to have your last moments be the realization you blew it? You blew it. You served the one who resisted Jah, the one who made you and everything else that you get to do. For what? Someone put it in the chat. What's the reason? I'm not familiar with that. Because there is none. There is none. You know what the reason is? Lies. You're not going to die. Lies. That's not going to hurt you. Lies. Jah doesn't exist. Lies. That's all they have and do and trust in are lies. That's the worst way to go. Knowing your whole life was for a lie. For you mistreating people so you could steal things. And now you don't even know why. Ah, man. Anything to avoid that, right? Anything to avoid that being our last day to go out like that, in that way. Because of this, last verse, the heavens must rejoice. Oh man, I can't. I'm positive there. Could you imagine how it was, even though Jah's there? Because remember, they're like the same plane, same spirits. Jah allows these things for a time and a season of testing and to show and to let you show and to see. And there it is. Now we know. And now they're very happy because they don't have to deal with him anymore. Michael threw him out. Michael and his angels. That is directly tied to verse 10 and the authority of the Christ. How is that not obvious? The authority of the Christ is immediately tied to the authority of Michael, who fought the devil and threw him out. And he did so because now he has authority, all authority in heaven and on earth. But we got to watch out because he's going to continue to allow the devil to finalize his time. It says at the end of verse 12, those living securely in the earth and in the sea must watch out because the devil's come down to you having great rage since he's learned he has only a little time left. Still, he's done. The heavens have won. We won through the blood of the witnessing of those who preceded us, and we're going to win now. He has great rage, and we can all see that now. Even though the earth is relatively peaceful, just like the Bible said it would be. Peace and security, whether now or later. That's not my point. It's peaceful. You with me? It's peaceful, and yet we have all these things going on. There was a lot of rage simmering, coming to the top. But the devil isn't always just going to come to you in a rage. Remember, as an angel of light, he's going to test and tempt you in ways that will test your faith. And all we have to do is realize, we're going this way anyway. He's just someone along the road to the way. And he's trying to get us off the road. That's going to go to the same place, but in a much, much worse direction. And when you get to the same place, there's no resurrection. So don't listen to him or anyone else who tries to mislead you along the way. We're going to die anyway, or we're going to live right through the Great Oppression in ways where it won't really make any difference, because we'll be there prepared to do what everyone who does do and dies will then be resurrected to a new life where we're all going to rejoice along with the heavens, because there's going to be a new earth and a new heavens in which righteousness is to dwell. And that's not going to happen where people are following the devil, lying and accusing people of things when they're guilty of them as well. And the only real difference is one group accepts who we are and why we do what we do, and we ask for forgiveness as well. The other group doesn't do that and tries to make it as hard as possible on those who do. So I thank all of you for joining me. I hope it was enjoyable. As you can probably tell, I'm looking forward to the Michael's show tomorrow. I was going to combine it with today's day text, but it's just, I've got so much. It'll probably be another show similar to part 3. So I highly recommend you join me if you can tomorrow. But if you can't, you can watch the video afterwards. I'm going to cover a lot of information. I'm going to get deeper into the Dead Sea Scroll material, other texts, and we're going to highlight the association between Jesus, Michael, and the biblical archangel next. So that'll be tomorrow, part 4, Jesus and Michael as a biblical archangel. Then we'll continue our readings in Revelation starting Monday with our day texts. And then the following Sunday, I'll be back with CW Jaw Talk. Still not sure which series I'm going to resume yet, but it'll be one or the other, the ancient aliens or the pre-Christian evidence for Jesus as the biblical Messiah.